The dragon had not tasted water for over 300 years. Taizhou lay curled on the dusty ground of his prison, his once beautiful scales now cracked and gray. He was massive, larger than the biggest earth whale, but his body had shrunk as it dried out over the centuries. His wings, once strong enough to carry him between stars, now lay flat and brittle against his sides. He was the last of the Ryong, a race of space dragons who lived in the water worlds across the galaxy. The Ryong were peaceful travelers who moved through the cosmos using ancient magic that let them swim between stars as easily as fish swim through oceans. But that was before the war. Before the Void Hunters came. Taizhou opened one giant eye, its color faded from bright gold to dull yellow. The small cave where he rested offered little comfort. This whole world, if you could call it that, was nothing but rocks and dust. No plants, no animals, no clouds, and worst of all, no water. The Void Hunters had trapped him here using powerful magic. They had created this pocket dimension, a tiny bubble of space, hidden between real worlds as the perfect prison for a water dragon. It had air to breathe, but not a single drop of moisture. Any normal creature would have died in days, Taizhou thought. His kind could survive longer without water than almost any other living thing in the universe. But even a Ryong had limits. He had tried everything to escape. He had clawed at the invisible walls of his prison until his talons broke. He had roared spells in the ancient dragon language until his throat was too dry to make sounds. He had even tried to die, hoping his spirit might slip free, but his body refused to give up. The only break in his endless torture was the tear, a tiny rip in the fabric of his prison that appeared randomly. It was never in the same place twice, and never lasted more than a few minutes. Through this tear, Taizhou could see glimpses of the real universe beyond. For centuries, these brief windows had shown him only empty space or distant stars. But recently, he had seen something new: ships. Metal vessels carrying small creatures between planets. At first, he thought they might be Void Hunters, but these ships looked different. They moved differently. Taizhou dragged himself to his feet, his joints creaking like rusty hinges. He sensed it coming. Another tier was about to form. He had developed a feel for them over the centuries. A slight change in the air, a faint shimmer in the emptiness. There it was, a small ripple in the air about 20 feet above the ground. Taizhou stretched his long neck upward, positioning his eye near the distortion. The tier opened slowly, like a hesitant eye, revealing a patch of star-filled space, and there, drifting through his field of view, was a ship. Not a Void Hunter vessel with its sharp angles and black metal, but something sleeker, with lights that glowed soft blue instead of harsh red. Taizhou focused all his remaining energy on the tier. Over the centuries, he had learned that while he couldn't make the tiers bigger or keep them from closing, he could sometimes see through them better if he concentrated. The ship came into clearer view. It was small, tiny compared to him, but large enough to hold several dozen of the creatures that piloted it. Through the ship's windows, Taizhou caught glimpses of them moving about. Humans. The knowledge came to him suddenly, a memory from the ancient Ryom histories. Humans were a young species, but the old dragons had known of them. They were mostly water, their bodies filled with the precious liquid that Taizhou craved. In the old stories, humans were called water bearers, creatures who carried oceans within them. Hope flared in Taizhou's dried-out heart for the first time in centuries. If he could somehow reach these humans, if he could make them understand, the tier was already starting to close. In desperation, Taizhou gathered the last of his magical energy. The Ryong were telepathic among themselves. But reaching across species and across dimensions would take everything he had left. He focused on the simplest message. The most basic need: water, please, help, He pushed the thought through the tier with all his strength. Not knowing if anyone would hear, not knowing if human minds could even receive dragon thoughts. The effort drained him completely. As the tier sealed itself shut, Taizhou collapsed back onto the dusty ground. His breathing came in shallow gasps. He had used the last of his moisture to send that message. If no one heard it, if no one came, he would not have the strength to try again. Darkness crept into the edges of his vision. His body was shutting down, preserving what little life remained. As consciousness faded, Taizhou had one final thought. After all these centuries, to die now, when help might be so close. Then blackness took him. On the research vessel Horizon, junior xenobiologist Jiwoo Kim sat alone in the observation deck. At 24, she was the youngest crew member on this mission to study strange energy readings in this unexplored sector of space. She stared out at the stars, making notes on her tablet about the unusual radiation patterns they had detected. The ship was quiet at this late hour, most of the crew asleep in their quarters. The headache hit her without warning, a sudden, stabbing pain behind her eyes that made her drop her tablet with a clatter. She pressed her hands to her temples, gasping at the intensity of it. Then came the voice. Not through her ears, but directly in her mind. Water ... please ... help ... The pain increased, and with it came flashes of a barren landscape, of scales drying and cracking, of a thirst so powerful it felt like fire. Jiwoo fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the alien sensations flooding her mind. Who are you? She whispered, not knowing if she was speaking aloud or thinking the words. More images came in response. A magnificent creature soaring through liquid worlds, then trapped, withering, dying of thirst. And beneath it all, that same desperate plea, water ... please ... Jiwoo tried to stand, to reach the communication panel and call for help, but her body wouldn't respond. The alien presence in her mind was drawing something from her, not just her attention but her actual bodily moisture. Her lips cracked, her skin tightened, and her vision blurred as her eyes dried out. I'll help you, she managed to think before darkness took her. I'll find you. She collapsed unconscious on the deck, the stars cold and distant beyond the viewport, unaware that she had just made contact with the last dragon in the universe, a creature that would change her life and the future of humanity forever. Jiwoo, can you hear me? The voice seemed to come from far away. Jiwoo slowly opened her eyes to see the worried face of Dr. Yoonji, the ship's medical officer, leaning over her. The bright lights of the medical bay made Jiwoo squint. What happened? Jiwoo asked. Her voice came out as a dry croak. Her throat felt like sandpaper. Captain Doyeon found you unconscious on the observation deck, Yoonji said, holding a water pouch to Jiwoo's lips. Drink this. You're severely dehydrated. Jiwoo drank greedily. The cool water felt like heaven on her parched throat. As she drank, memories of what had happened flooded back, the voice in her head, the desperate plea, the feeling of something ancient and powerful reaching out to her across the stars. There was something, Jiwoo said between sips. A voice in my head. It needed water. It was dying of thirst. Yoonji frowned and checked the medical scanner in her hand. Your brain scans are normal. No signs of hallucinations or neural interference. But your body shows extreme dehydration, as if you hadn't had water for days. That's impossible. You had dinner with the crew just hours ago. Captain Doyeon entered the medical bay, his face stern with concern. Behind him walked Minjae, the ship's security officer. How is she? The captain asked. Stable, but strangely dehydrated, Yoonji replied. And she's talking about voices in her head. Doyeon turned to Jiwoo. What exactly did you experience? Jiwoo sat up slowly, still feeling weak. It wasn't just a voice, Captain. It was a presence. Something ancient. It showed me images, a dragon-like creature trapped in a barren place with no water. It's been there for centuries, dying of thirst. It was begging for help. Minjae crossed his arms. Sounds like a hallucination caused by those strange energy readings we've been tracking. It wasn't a hallucination, Jiwoo insisted. It was real. And it's still there, I can feel it. She tapped her temple. In the back of my mind like a faint echo. The captain and Yoonji exchanged concerned looks. I want a full neural scan, Doyeon ordered. And keep her under observation for the next 24 hours. Captain, Jiwoo said, grabbing his arm as he turned to leave. We need to help it. The dragon creature, it called itself a Ryong. It's trapped somewhere nearby in some kind of pocket dimension. Doyeon gently removed her hand. Rest now, Jiwoo. We'll discuss this when you're feeling better. After they left, Jiwoo lay back on the medical bed, staring at the ceiling. The presence in her mind was still there, fainter now, but definitely real. She closed her eyes and tried to focus on it. Can you hear me? She thought, directing her question to the presence. For a long moment there was nothing. Then, faintly, like a whisper from across a vast distance, yes, Jiwoo's heart raced. Who are you? What are you? Images flickered through her mind faster than before but clearer. A magnificent dragon with scales that shimmered between blue and green like the deepest ocean waters. Stars and planets seen from impossible angles. Strange liquid worlds where creatures like the dragon soared through water that somehow existed in space. Taejo. Came the faint reply. Last of ryong. Where are you? Jiwoo asked. How can I help you? More images, a tear in space, a barren rock floating in nothingness, the dragon Taejo trapped and dying. Hunters. Created prison. No water. Dying. Jiwoo felt a wave of weakness wash over her, and her mouth suddenly felt dry again. She realized with the start that communicating with Taejo was somehow draining the moisture from her body. The connection between them was physical as well as mental. She reached for the water pouch Eunji had left and took another long drink. I'll find you, she promised Taejo. I'll help you. But I need to be careful. Our connection is draining my water. Sorry. The dragon's thought carried deep regret. Cannot control. Need too great. Jiwoo felt the presence fade as Taejo pulled back, trying to protect her. No, wait. She called out mentally. Don't go. Just let me handle this carefully. She felt the presence stabilize, still there but less draining. Jiwoo reached for her tablet on the bedside table and began making notes about everything she had learned. As a xenobiologist, she had studied theoretical alien life forms, but nothing in her training had prepared her for direct, telepathic contact with an ancient space dragon. The door to the medical bay slid open, and Hyunwoo, the ship's navigator, entered. Hey, he said with a small smile. Heard you had some excitement. Captain asked me to check our position relative to those energy anomalies we've been tracking. Jiwoo sat up straighter. Hyunwoo, I need your help. Those anomalies are not just random energy patterns. They're signs of a dimensional tier. Hyunwoo raised an eyebrow. A dimensional tier? That's highly theoretical physics, Jiwoo. No one has ever confirmed the existence of pocket dimensions. Until now, Jiwoo said firmly. She lowered her voice. Look, I know how this sounds, but I made contact with a being trapped in a pocket dimension near our position. It's dying and somehow we formed a connection. She expected Hyunwoo to laugh or dismiss her claims, but instead he sat down on the edge of her bed, his expression serious. Actually, the energy readings we've been getting are consistent with some theoretical models of dimensional breaches. Small, unstable tiers in space-time that appear and disappear randomly. He studied her face. You really believe you made contact with something on the other side? I don't just believe it, I know it, Jiwoo said. Its name is Taejo. It's the last of a species called the Ryong, basically space dragons that live in water environments. It's been trapped for centuries in a dimension with no water. Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he pulled out his own tablet and showed Jiwoo a map of the energy readings they'd been tracking. Look at this pattern, he said, pointing to a series of dots that appeared and disappeared across their flight path. If these are dimensional tiers, they're following a predictable pattern. We might be able to predict where the next one will appear. For the first time since waking up, Jiwoo felt real hope. If we can predict it, we can be there when it happens. Maybe find a way to help Taejo. In the back of her mind, she felt the dragon's presence grow slightly stronger. As if responding to her hope, thank you. Came the faint thought. Hyunwoo didn't notice Jiwoo's momentary distraction. He was already working on calculations on his tablet. We'll need to convince the captain, he said. And we'll need Sunmi's help. She's the best engineer on board. Jiwoo nodded, her determination growing. We'll convince them. We have to. A being that survived centuries without water deserves our help. What she didn't say was what she felt through their connection, that Taejo was not just ancient, but powerful beyond human understanding. And that helping him might change everything humans thought they knew about the universe. Captain Do-young crossed his arms and frowned at the three people standing before him in the ship's conference room. Jiwoo, still looking pale but determined, stood between Yunwoo and Sunmi, the ship's chief engineer. "Let me get this straight," the captain said. "You want to divert our research mission to chase what you believe is a dimensional tier because Jiwoo had a telepathic conversation with a space dragon." When he put it that way, it did sound ridiculous. Jiwoo stepped forward. "Captain, I know how it sounds. But the energy readings we've been tracking match exactly with what we would expect from dimensional tiers. And my experience wasn't a hallucination. Dr. Yoonji confirmed that something physically drained the water from my body." Sunmi, a short woman with practical hands and a no-nonsense attitude, tapped her tablet. A 3D model of swirling energy appeared above the conference table. "Sir, I've analyzed the data. These energy patterns don't match any known natural phenomenon, but they do match theoretical models of breaches between dimensions." She looked at Jiwoo. "I'm not saying I believe in space dragons, but something strange is definitely happening out there." Hyunwoo stepped forward with his own tablet. "Based on the pattern of appearances, I can predict where the next tier will form. It's only a small detour from our planned route." Captain Doyeon rubbed his forehead. "And what exactly do you plan to do if you find this tier?" "First we confirm it exists," Jiwoo said. "Then we try to communicate with Taijo, the being on the other side. If we can establish reliable contact, maybe we can find a way to help him." "Or it could be a trap," said Minjae, who had been quietly listening from the corner of the room. "Some unknown entity luring us in." Jiwoo shook her head. "Taijo is real and he's suffering. I felt it. He's been trapped for centuries in a dimension with no water. His species needs water to live, just like we do." The captain was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, he sighed. "We'll check out the next predicted tier location, but we approach with extreme caution. No one takes any risks. We observe only. Is that clear?" Everyone nodded. "Good, Hyunwoo, set course. Sunmi, prepare whatever sensors you need. Jiwoo, I want you to stay in medical bay under observation." "But Captain," Jiwoo started to protest. "That's an order. If this dragon is really communicating with you, it can do so while you're safely in medical bay." Jiwoo wanted to argue but knew it would be useless. She nodded reluctantly. 6 hours later, the horizon slowed as it approached the coordinates Hyunwoo had calculated. Jiwoo lay in the medical bay, watching the ship's external cameras on a screen above her bed. Dr. Yoonji monitored her vital signs closely. "Your hydration levels are dropping again," Yoonji noted with concern. "Even though you've been drinking water constantly." Jiwoo nodded. She could feel Taijo's presence growing stronger as they got closer to the predicted tier location. The connection between them was drawing moisture from her body again. "He's nearby," she whispered. "I can feel him." On the screen, she could see the empty space ahead of the ship. It looked like any other patch of stars, but Jiwoo knew better. She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. "Taijo? Can you hear me? We're coming to help you." The response was stronger than before, almost clear. "I feel you approaching. The tier will open soon. But be careful. The hunters may still be watching." Jiwoo opened her eyes. "Dr. Yoonji, I need to speak to the captain, now." Yoonji hesitated, then pressed the come button. "Captain Jiwoo says she has urgent information." "Put her through," came Do-yeon's voice. "Captain Taijo says the tier will open soon, but we need to be careful. The beings who trapped him, the Void Hunters, might be watching for anyone who tries to help him." There was a pause before the captain responded. "Understood. We're proceeding with caution." On the screen, Jiwoo could see the ship's sensors were active, scanning the area ahead. Suddenly, a small alert flashed. "Energy spike detected," came Sunmi's voice over the comm. Exactly where Hyunwoo predicted. "It's small but growing." Jiwoo watched in amazement as a tiny point of light appeared in the emptiness of space. It wasn't bright, more like a distortion, a place where the stars behind it seemed to bend and twist. "That's it," she whispered. "That's the tier." In her mind, Taijo's presence surged. She could feel his excitement and hope emotions so powerful they made her dizzy. "I see your ship." His thoughts came clearly now. "After centuries, help has come." The tier was growing slowly, from a pinpoint to something the size of a small window. Through it, Jiwoo could see nothing but darkness. We're getting readings from the other side, Sunmi reported. Breathable atmosphere, but extremely dry. No detectable water at all. Temperature approximately 30 degrees Celsius. Gravity about 80% of Earth normal. Can we send a probe through? Captain Do-yeon asked. The tier is still too small, Sunmi replied. And it's unstable. Based on previous patterns, it will only stay open for about 20 minutes. Ji-woo sat up in her bed. Captain, I need to go to the bridge, please. I might be able to help stabilize the tier through my connection with Taizhou. There was a long pause before the captain responded. Dr. Yoonji, is she stable enough to move? Yoonji checked her readings. Yes, but I'm coming with her. All right. Bring her up. Minutes later, Ji-woo stood on the bridge, staring at the main view screen where the tier was now clearly visible. It had grown to about a meter in diameter, a swirling distortion in space. Can we get visual of what's on the other side? Do-yeon asked. Sunmi adjusted the sensors. Enhancing and filtering now. The image on the screen changed, zooming in on the tier. As the computer enhanced the image, they could see through to the other side, a barren, rocky landscape under a starless black sky. And there, barely visible in the dim light, was a massive shape. Ji-woo gasped. Taizhou. The shape moved slightly, and they could make out what looked like an enormous scaled head lifting weakly from the ground. One giant eye, dull yellow in color, seemed to stare directly at them through the tier. It's real, whispered Hyunwoo. The dragon is real. He's dying, Jae-woo said, feeling Taizhou's weakness through their connection. He's been without water for so long. We have to help him. The tier is too small to send anything substantial through, Sunmi said, studying her readings. And it's already starting to shrink. We have maybe 10 minutes before it closes completely. Ji-woo closed her eyes, concentrating on her connection with Taizhou. Can you make the tier bigger from your side? She asked mentally. No strength ... Came the weak reply. Need ... water ... Ji-woo opened her eyes, determination filling her. Captain, I have an idea. But you're not going to like it. Captain Do-yeon looked at her warily. What is it? We need to send water through the tier. And I think I'm the only one who can do it. Our connection, it might let me reach through where others can't. Absolutely not, the captain said firmly. It's too dangerous. Sir, Sunmi interrupted, studying her readings. The tier is responding to Ji-woo's presence. It's actually stabilizing when she focuses on it. Everyone turned to look at the screen. The tier, which had been shrinking, now held steady. See? Ji-woo said, I can help him. Please, Captain. He's been suffering for centuries. Captain Do-yeon looked from Ji-woo to the screen and back again. The massive eye of the dragon seemed to be pleading with them. What exactly are you proposing? He finally asked. I need to get as close to the tier as possible, Ji-woo explained. With water. Lots of it. Captain Do-yeon shook his head. It's too dangerous. We don't know what could happen if you get too close to that tier. Actually, Sunmi said, studying her tablet, I might have a solution. She looked up at the captain. We could modify one of our environmental suits. Add external water tanks and a delivery system. Ji-woo could approach the tier in the suit without risking direct exposure to the dimensional breach. And how would she deliver the water? Min-jae asked skeptically. A simple pump and hose, Sunmi replied. If the tier is stable enough, she could extend the hose through and deliver water directly to the dragon. Ji-woo nodded eagerly. That could work. How much water could we send? Sunmi did some quick calculations on her tablet. With the largest external tanks, about 15 liters. 15 liters? Hyunwoo looked doubtful. For a creature that size? That's like giving a single drop to a human dying of thirst. It's better than nothing, Ji-woo insisted. And maybe it will be enough to give Taizhou the strength to help widen the tier from his side. Captain Do-yeon paced the bridge, considering the options. The tier on the view screen was holding steady, but they all knew it wouldn't last forever. How long will it take to modify a suit? He asked Sunmi. 20 minutes, maybe less if I have help. The captain checked the time. The tier has been stable for 12 minutes already. Based on previous patterns, how much longer will it stay open? Hyunwoo consulted his data. Hard to say exactly. The previous tiers lasted between 20 and 30 minutes, but this one seems more stable, possibly because of Jiwoo's connection to the entity. Do-yeon made his decision. Sunmi, modify the suit. Min-jae, you'll accompany Jiwoo in a standard EVA suit as backup. Dr. Yoonji, prepare emergency medical response in case anything goes wrong. He turned to Jiwoo. You'll be tethered to the ship at all times. If I give the order to return, you return immediately. Understood? Jiwoo nodded, relief flooding through her. Thank you, Captain. In her mind, she felt Taijo's presence grow stronger, as if he sensed their plan. Help ... Toming ... His thoughts reached her. Thank you. Water bearer. 80 minutes later, Jiwoo floated outside the horizon in the modified environmental suit. The suit was bulky with the added water tanks, making movement difficult. Min-jae floated nearby, watching her carefully. Both were connected to the ship by safety tethers. The dimensional tier hung in space before them, a swirling distortion about 10 meters away. Through it, Jiwoo could see the barren landscape more clearly now, a rocky plain under a black sky. Taijo's massive form lay on the ground just beyond the tier, his dull scales barely visible in the dim light. How are you feeling, Jiwoo? Dr. Yoonji's voice came through her helmet comm. I'm okay, Jiwoo replied, though she could feel the familiar dryness in her mouth. The closer she got to the tier, the stronger her connection with Taijo became, and the more it drained her. But the suit's hydration system automatically provided water for her to drink. The tier is holding steady, Yoonwoo reported from the bridge, but our sensors show it might start shrinking again in about 10 minutes. Understood, Jiwoo said. I'm moving closer now. She used the suit's thrusters to push herself gently toward the tier. As she approached, she could feel a strange pulling sensation, as if the tier was drawing her in. Careful, Min-jae warned, staying close behind her. Don't get too close. Jiwoo stopped about 2 meters from the tier. From this distance, she could see Taijo clearly. The dragon was even larger than she had imagined, at least 30 meters long from nose to tail. His body was skeletal, his once mighty wings now thin and papery. But his eye, fixed on her, still held intelligence and hope. Taijo, she said aloud, knowing he could hear her thoughts. I brought water. The dragon's thoughts came clearly now. Water bearer. You came, as the old stories foretold. I'm going to extend a hose through the tier, Jiwoo explained. It will deliver water to you. It's not much, but hopefully it will help. Any water is life, Taijo replied. Jiwoo activated the water delivery system on her suit. A flexible hose extended from one of the tanks on her back. She carefully guided it toward the tier. The tier is stable, Sunmi reported. But be careful. Our sensors can't predict what will happen when something physical passes through. Jiwoo took a deep breath and pushed the end of the hose toward the tier. As it touched the swirling distortion, she felt resistance, like pushing against thick jelly. But slowly, the hose began to pass through. It's working, she exclaimed. On the other side, the hose emerged into the pocket dimension. Taijo's massive head shifted slightly, his eye fixed on this strange object entering his prison. Guide it. To my mouth. His thoughts came weakly. Jiwoo pushed more of the hose through until about 3 meters had passed into the pocket dimension. It was just long enough to reach Taijo's enormous mouth. I'm activating the pump now, she said, pressing a control on her suit. Water began to flow through the hose. On the other side, it poured out in a steady stream into Taijo's partially open mouth. The effect was immediate and astonishing. As the water touched his tongue, a shudder ran through the dragon's entire body. His dull scales began to shimmer faintly, color returning in waves that rippled across his massive form. His eye, which had been a faded yellow, brightened to a brilliant gold. It's working, Jiwoo cried out. He's responding to the water. Through their connection, she felt a surge of energy and relief so powerful it made her gasp. Centuries of thirst were being eased, if only slightly, by this small offering of water. Double quotes, more ... Came Taijo's thought, stronger now. Please ... Jiwoo checked the tank levels. 8 liters delivered. 7 more to go. As the water continued to flow, Taijo's strength visibly increased. His body, which had been lying flat on the ground, now began to rise as he pushed himself up on his front legs. His wings, previously limp, now stretched slightly, the thin membrane between the bones filling out as moisture returned to his tissues. "The tear is responding," Yunwoo reported excitedly. "It's growing larger." Jiwoo looked up and saw that the dimensional breach was indeed expanding, now almost 2 meters in diameter. She could feel through her connection with Taijo that he was somehow influencing it, using his returning strength to widen the passage between their worlds. "Captain," Sunmi's voice came urgently over the com. "Our sensors are detecting energy building up around the tier. It's becoming unstable in a new way." "Jiwoo, Minjae, pull back now," Captain Doyen ordered. "Wait." Jiwoo said, "The water delivery isn't complete. Just a few more liters." Through the tier, Taijo had risen to his full height, towering even in his weakened state. His scales now glowed with a faint blue-green light, and his eyes blazed like twin suns. Enough, his thoughts came to Jiwoo, stronger and clearer than ever. "You have given me what I need. Now stand back, water-bearer. What comes next may be dangerous for you." The tier was now pulsing with energy, expanding and contracting rapidly. Jiwoo felt Minjae grab her suit from behind. "We need to go. Now." He insisted, activating his thrusters to pull them both back toward the ship dot as they retreated. Jiwoo kept her eyes fixed on the tier and the magnificent creature beyond it. Taijo had risen to his full height, his wings now partially extended. He looked directly at her, and his thoughts reached out one last time. "Thank you, Jiwoo of Earth. The death of the Ryong is not easily forgotten. We will meet again." Then the tier flashed with blinding light, forcing Jiwoo to close her eyes. When she opened them again, everything had changed. The light was so bright that everyone on the bridge of the horizon had to shield their eyes. When it faded, they stared in amazement at what the main view screen showed. The dimensional tier had expanded to over 20 meters wide. Through it, they could see Taijo clearly. The dragon stood tall, his body transformed. His scales now shimmered with deep blue and green colors that seemed to flow like water across his massive form. His wings, fully extended, spanned at least 40 meters from tip to tip. His eyes glowed with golden light, fixed on the ship and the two small figures floating nearby. "Get them back inside, now," Captain Doyon ordered, staring at the screen in awe and fear. Outside, Minjae was pulling Jiwoo back toward the ship as fast as their thrusters would allow. The water tanks on Jiwoo's modified suit were now empty, making movement easier. "What's happening?" Jiwoo asked, unable to take her eyes off Taijo. Through their connection, she felt a surge of power and energy unlike anything she had experienced before. "I don't know. But we need to get back to the ship," Minjae replied tensely, before they could reach the airlock. A deep rumbling sound filled their helmet coms. It took Jiwoo a moment to realize what it was. Taijo was speaking aloud, not just in her mind. His voice was like thunder, vibrating through space itself. "Humans of the horizon," the dragon's voice boomed. "You have saved the last of the Ryong. This debt will not be forgotten." On the bridge, the crew stared in shock as the dragon's voice came through their communication system. "It can speak our language?" Hyunwoo whispered. "It must have learned from its connection with Jiwoo," Sunmi suggested. Her eyes wide, Taijo's massive head moved closer to the tier, his golden eyes seeming to look directly at each person on the bridge. "For centuries I have been imprisoned by the Void Hunters, enemies of all living things. They feared the Ryong because we protected the water worlds of this galaxy." Outside, Jiwoo and Minjae had reached the airlock but paused, transfixed by Taijo's words and presence. "Your kind was foretold in our legends," the dragon continued. "Humans, the water-bearers, who would one day reach the stars and awaken the last dragon." Through their connection, Jiwoo felt Taijo's emotions, gratitude, joy, and something else ... A sense of purpose renewed. "In return for your help, I offer knowledge." Suddenly, everyone on the ship felt a gentle touch in their minds, not invasive like Jiwoo's initial contact had been, but soft and careful. Images began to flow, star maps showing water-rich worlds, untouched by human exploration. Ancient technologies for water purification and creation that made human methods seem primitive. Warnings. of cosmic dangers, the Void Hunters, and other threats that lurked in the darkness between. Stars. And most surprisingly, histories that showed humans and Ryong had met before. Thousands of years ago when the dragons had visited. Earth's oceans. The images lasted only seconds but felt like hours of information. When they ended, Captain Doyon found himself gripping the arms of his chair tightly. Did everyone see that? He asked shakily. The entire bridge crew nodded, their faces showing amazement and confusion. Outside, Jiwoo felt something changing in the tier. The edges were becoming unstable again, but in a different way than before. Taijo, what's happening? She asked through their connection. The pocket dimension is collapsing, came his reply, now clear and strong in her mind. With my strength returned, its walls can no longer hold me. But I cannot pass through this tier, it is still too small for my physical form. Then how will you escape? Jiwoo asked, concerned. She felt a sense of reassurance from the dragon. There are other ways between dimensions for one who knows the ancient paths. The Ryong were travelers between worlds long before the Void Hunters arose. On the bridge, alarms began to sound. The tier is becoming highly unstable, Sunmi reported. Energy readings are off the charts. And the pocket dimension beyond appears to be collapsing in on itself. Jiwo, Minjae, get inside now! Captain Doyan ordered. This time, they didn't hesitate. As soon as they were through the airlock, Jaewoo removed her helmet and rushed to the bridge, still in the bulky suit. She arrived just in time to see Taijo on the main screen, his wings fully extended, his body glowing with increasing intensity. What's he doing? She asked, breathless. We don't know, Hyunwoo replied. But the pocket dimension is definitely collapsing. If he doesn't get out soon... Taijo's voice filled the ship again. Water bearers. I must leave this prison now, the knowledge I have shared is only the beginning. There is much more for your kind to learn. About the cosmic waters. The dragons. Body was now glowing so brightly it was difficult to look at directly. The tier between dimensions pulsed and flickered. Jiwoo Kim. Taijo's voice softened slightly. Our connection will remain. Through you, I will find your people again when the time is right. Jiwoo stepped forward, placing her hand on the view screen. Where are you going? She asked aloud, knowing he would hear her thoughts. To heal. To gather strength, and then... to find others of my kind who may still exist in the far reaches of the cosmos. The tier suddenly contracted, shrinking rapidly. For a moment, it seemed Taijo would be trapped again as the pocket dimension collapsed around him. But then, the dragon did something unexpected. His body began to change, becoming less solid, more like living water. His scales flowed and merged, his wings dissolved into mist, and his entire form shifted into a swirling vortex of blue-green energy. He's changing his physical state. Sunmi exclaimed, staring at her readings. He's becoming... I don't even have words for what these readings show. The transformed Taijo surged toward the rapidly shrinking tier. As the last of the opening was about to close, his liquid energy form shot through. A stream of brilliant blue-green light that passed through the tier just before it snapped shut completely. For a moment, nothing happened. The view screen showed only empty space where the tier had been. Then, a new light appeared, not a tier, but a swirling cloud of luminous mist that gradually took shape. Taijo reformed outside the ship, no longer in the pocket dimension, but in real space. His body was different now, more streamlined, glowing with inner light, his scales like flowing water that somehow maintained a solid form. He escaped. Jiwoo cried out, joy filling her. Through their connection, she felt Taijo's triumph and freedom after centuries of imprisonment. The dragon circled the horizon once, his massive form dwarfing the research vessel. Then he paused before the main viewport, his golden eyes finding Jiwoo on the bridge. The stars hold more water than humans know, his voice came one last time, gentler now. My kind shaped the cosmic currents before time was measured. Now I return to those currents. But I will find you again, water-bearer. With that, Taijo turned and soared away from the ship, his body leaving a trail of crystalline moisture that briefly formed a bridge across the stars before dispersing into the vacuum. Within moments, he had accelerated to impossible speed, becoming a streak of light that vanished into the distance. On the bridge, silence fell as everyone tried to process what they had witnessed. Finally, Captain Doyeon turned to Jiwoo. What exactly did we just do? He asked quietly. Jiwoo smiled, watching the last shimmer of Taijo's passage fade among the distant stars. We didn't just save a life, Captain. We awakened something ancient and powerful, something that once protected the waters of our galaxy. She touched her temple, where she could still feel the faint connection to Taijo. And I don't think we've seen the last of him. Dr. Yunji, who had joined them on the bridge, checked her medical scanner. Your hydration levels are completely normal now, she told Jiwoo with surprise. The connection isn't draining you anymore. He's controlling it better now, Jiwoo explained. He's keeping our link open but gentle. Captain Dune looked thoughtful. Those star maps he showed us ... Worlds full of water that we never knew existed. He turned to Hyunwoo. How long would it take us to reach the nearest one? Hyunwoo consulted his navigation system. At our maximum speed, about 3 weeks. The captain nodded slowly. Plot a course. I think our research mission just got a lot more interesting. He looked at Jiwoo. And I have a feeling we're going to need our xenobiologists more than ever. As the horizon changed course, heading toward the first of Taijo's water worlds, Jiwoo stood at the viewport looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a dragon who had been dying of thirst for centuries was now soaring free through the cosmos. And he had called humans water-bearers, a title that filled her with both pride and wonder. In her mind, she felt a gentle touch like ripples on a calm lake. Thank you, she thought, knowing Taijo would hear. The response came faintly, from across the vast distances of space. No. Jiwoo of Earth, thank you for the water. The galaxy will never be the same.